The city of Harrington was glowing with festive lights on Christmas Eve. Stores twinkled with decorations. Families hurried along the snowy sidewalks with gift bags in hand, and every restaurant was packed with laughter. But in a quiet corner of a high-end restaurant, one man sat alone. Richard Hale, the CEO of Hale Enterprises, one of the largest companies in the country. Richard was only 45, but his face looked older, weighed down by years of relentless work. Known as a brilliant businessman, he had built an empire from nothing. To the world, he was powerful, wealthy, and untouchable. But behind the expensive suit and polished shoes was a man with no family, no friends, and no one to share his success with. His wife had left him years ago, tired of his obsession with work. His only child, a son, refused to speak to him after years of neglect, and now, on Christmas Eve, when the world celebrated togetherness, Richard sat in silence, staring at a steak he had no appetite for. The little girl, at the next table, a cheerful family of 4, was enjoying dinner. A young couple with 2 children, a boy about 10 years old and a little girl no older than 7. The girl had curly brown hair, bright, curious eyes, and a giggle that carried across the room like bells. Richard tried to ignore them, but their laughter cut through his loneliness. He watched as the children exchanged small handmade gifts with their parents. He watched as the mother leaned in to kiss the father's cheek. Something in his chest ached. Then suddenly the little girl noticed him. She tilted her head, studying the lonely man in the fancy suit. And before her parents could stop her, she slid off her chair, walked over, and stood by Richard's table. "Excuse me," she said softly. Richard looked up, startled. The little girl smiled. "Do you want to have dinner with us?" The invitation. For a moment, Richard didn't know what to say. No one had ever asked him something so simple, so kind in years. He glanced toward the girl's parents, who were watching nervously. I don't want to intrude," Richard said awkwardly. But the girl tugged his sleeve. "You look lonely. And it's Christmas. No one should be alone on Christmas." Her words pierced straight through him. Her father finally nodded with a warm smile. "You're welcome to join us, sir. Please." Richard hesitated, his pride and shyness warring inside him. But something about the girl's innocent eyes melted his defenses. Slowly he rose and followed her to their table. Dinner with strangers. The family introduced themselves. Mark and Julia Bennett, and their children, Sam and Lily Richard, used to stiff business dinners, didn't know how to act at first. But the Bennetts were warm, asking him simple questions, treating him like an old friend. Julia passed him mashed potatoes, Mark cracked gentle jokes, and the children filled the table with laughter. For the first time in years, Richard felt the warmth of belonging. As he sipped hot cocoa Lily insisted he try, he found himself laughing. It startled him. He couldn't remember the last time he had laughed like that. And all the while, Lily sat beside him, beaming proudly, as if she had saved Christmas itself. The confession: when dinner ended, Richard thanked them profusely. "You have no idea what this means to me," he said, his voice thick with emotion. Julia smiled kindly. Sometimes all a person needs is a seat at the table. But Richard wasn't ready to let go. He lingered outside the restaurant as they prepared to leave. Finally, he gathered the courage to speak. "I want to be honest," he said softly. "I've spent my whole life chasing money, success, power. And yet tonight, when we're with all of you, I realized how empty I've been. Thank you for reminding me what matters." Mark shook his hand firmly. "It's never too late to start living differently." Richard nodded, his heart heavy with both regret and hope. A restless night. That night, back in his mansion, Richard couldn't sleep. The echo of Lily's words haunted him. No one should be alone on Christmas. He looked around at the cold, silent rooms filled with art and gold but not love. And for the first time, Richard Hale, the powerful CEO, broke down in tears.